Welcome back to another video. We've already seen this before, but we're doing it again. It's the predictions again. This time, the round of 16 of the World Cup 2026. Before I get into it, I'm just going to quickly go through how my prediction for the round of 32 went. They actually went quite well. Basically, usually was only a goal or two away. South Africa, start off South Africa versus Canada. That ended 1-0, which I got correct. I'm not going to really count the goal scorers because I just did that for a bit of fun, but that's not really counting in my prediction. Next up was Brazil versus Japan, which ended 2-1. I got that correct. And then probably the big shock was Paraguay versus Germany, which ended 1-1, and Paraguay won 4-3 on penalties. I got that completely wrong. That was one of the few I got wrong, as I said 3-0 to Germany. Then you had Netherlands versus Morocco, which ended 1-1 and ended 3-2 on penalties to Morocco, which I got incorrect. However, I said 2-2, so that wasn't too far off, and then 4-2 to Morocco on penalties. So that was very close. Then you had Ivory Coast versus Norway, which ended 2-1 to Norway. I was one goal off by that. I said 3-1 to Norway, and I remember I said a hat-trick for Erling Haaland. Then you had France versus Sweden, which ended 3-0. I got that wrong. I said 4-1 to France, but it's still the right results. So far I'm doing quite well aside from the Paraguay match. Then you had Mexico versus Ecuador, which ended 2-0 to Mexico. I got the result right, the score wrong because I said 1-1 and Mexico to win 5-4 on pens. Then you had England versus DR Congo, which I said 2-1, and I got that correct. Then you had Belgium versus Senegal, which was 3-2 to Belgium. I got that incorrect. I said it the wrong way around. I said 3-2 to Senegal, but they were unlucky to be fair. Then you had USA versus Bosnia, which ended 2-0. I got that incorrect, right result, but I said 2-1 to the USA. And then you had Spain versus Austria, which ended 3-0. I got that incorrect. I said 3-1, but right result again. Then you had Portugal 2, Croatia 1. I got that correct, scoreline right as well. Then you had Switzerland versus Algeria, which ended 2-0 to Switzerland, and I got that incorrect. I said 1-1 and 4-1 to Switzerland on penalties, so right result, but again, not on penalties. Then you had Australia versus Egypt, which ended 1-1 and 4-2 on penalties to Egypt. I got that incorrect. I said it would be a win for Egypt, but I just said 2-1 to Egypt, probably through normal time without extra time. Then probably the second biggest shock and the story of the tournament was Argentina versus Cape Verde last night, which was one of the incredible games of the World Cup. Possibly not just this World Cup, just in history of the World Cup. It ended 3-2 to Argentina. I got that incorrect. I said 4-1 to Argentina, but Cape Verde, just give yourself a round of applause. That was incredible. Like those goals, I don't know the name of it. I think it was is Cabral, number 13 for Cape Verde. That was a worldie. I'm so impressed by Cape Verde. They were incredible, and they've obviously written themselves into World Cup folklore, and they can go home with their heads held high. It's a cruel way to lose. It's arguably worse than getting battered, but they should be really, really proud of themselves because they've just gone toe to toe with the world champions. And then last night was Colombia versus Ghana, which ended 1-0. I was just wrong with that. I said 2-0 to Colombia, but they still won. So now we'll look at the round of 16 and what that means. So as you can see, I've got the number of teams remaining from each continent. So Oceania, as we knew, already had 0 because New Zealand got grouped. Asia lost their last 2 teams in the knockouts because Japan lost to Brazil and Australia obviously lost to Egypt. Technically they're Oceanian, but they're playing the Asian Confederation. Egypt and Morocco are the only 2 African sides left. There was 9 going into the knockouts, but I'm trying to remember all of them. So South Africa, Ivory Coast, Senegal, DR Congo, Cape Verde, Ghana, and one more, Algeria, I think it is, all got knocked out. So that means that Africa's now into 2 teams, with Egypt playing Argentina and Morocco playing Canada. Then you've got South America, lost just 1, I think. Did they lose any? Did South America lose a team? Ecuador, that was it. Yeah, Ecuador out to Mexico, and Uruguay was already out, so that's them down to 4. North America remains on 3 with USA, Canada, and Mexico all still through. And Europe went from 13 to 7 with France, Portugal, Spain, Belgium, Norway, England, and Switzerland all going through. I can't remember. I think some of the most notable teams that went out, the 2 big ones were Germany and the Netherlands. A few more teams went out from Europe, but those are the notable ones. So now let's get straight into the knockouts. Put some special effect on it just because why not? So starting off with the first round of 16 match, it's Canada versus Morocco. Canada beat South Africa to get here, and Morocco beat the Netherlands. Morocco obviously are always considered an underdog, and they played really, really well against Netherlands. Both teams played well, but in the second half in particular, Morocco dominated. They were actually surprising to concede, but they obviously scraped the goal right at the end. But they did well. Canada, South Africa, they'd be considered as weak opponents. Maybe they were quite. South Africa, we did give Canada a tough test, and Canada had to overcome it again in the last minute. With a goal from Stefan Eustachio, don't know how you pronounce it, but they did. Canada, in my opinion, will be the first host knocked out of the tournament with no goals, but two from Morocco from their striker, who's just joined Bayern Munich actually, Ismail Saibari. So he'll be an interesting addition as a backup to Harry Kane. And the winner of this match will play the winner of Paraguay-France, which we will now come on to. So Paraguay, obviously the big upset of the tournament so far, aside from Cape Verde getting to the knockouts. But in terms of like knockout victories, Paraguay was the big upset, beating Germany on penalties. They had it was an ugly game in the nicest way possible, because Paraguay didn't play like free flowing football. They weren't playing like Cape Verde last night, who actually looked up for it and looked like the better side against Argentina. Paraguay just played really, really defensively and held on through extra time. And Germany obviously just were not good on their day, and they were terrible in penalties, which is usually their own game. As you see, obviously the winner of this plays Canada versus Morocco. Then you come on to France, who absolutely destroyed Sweden 3-0, and their attack is deadly. And that is the reason that I predict a battering for Paraguay, 4-0, courtesy of a hat-trick from Kylian Mbappe and a Michael Olise goal, because that France attack is just dominant. Like, I think against Iraq they had struggled, but they managed to get a couple of goals. But then against Sweden they were free flowing, and they look like they've got the chemistry now back. And I just think that they're Paraguay. Congratulate them for being here, but they are arguably the weakest side in the knockouts, and I do see them going home. Moving on to the next tie, which is another monstrous clash that we've ended up with between Brazil and Norway, with the winner playing the winner of Mexico versus England, which we'll come on to because I have a few interesting things to say. Brazil were definitely a mixed bag against Japan. Like, they were expected to go through probably, but Japan obviously gave them a tough test, got the first goal and gave them a scare. But the thing that they can't, you have to remember with Brazil, is that they've got Carlo Ancelotti in charge, and he knows a thing or two about comeback and how to get a result. So he managed to sort them out at half time, and obviously probably during the hydration break. It was a late goal by Gabriel Martinelli that sent them through, but it was a goal that sent them through. So, whereas Norway also actually had a late goal. It wasn't as late as Brazil's. It was in the 86th minute, courtesy of Erling Haaland. Might have been the 88th actually, but after a stunning goal from Antonio Nusa, but then it was Amad Diallo for Ivory Coast that equalised. I did see that game possibly going to extra time halfway through, but then it didn't. But I have got Brazil going through 3-2. It's going to be quite a thrilling game in my opinion, courtesy of goals from Vinicius Junior, Matheus Cunha, and Gabriel, the Arsenal centre back. But a brace for Erling Haaland, who probably won't win the Golden Boot, but at least he goes out with a fight. But Norway were a dark horse, but Brazil are going to be a strong opponent. Moving on to Mexico versus England. England were very interesting to watch against DR Congo, because obviously it started off quite badly for them with conceding an early goal, and then they just did not look very good creatively. Whereas Mexico have played really strongly throughout the tournament, with like first game South Africa 2-0, then they've got 9 points in the group, haven't conceded a single goal, and everything looks in their favour, to be honest. I mean, they're at the Azteca in Mexico, where they've only lost twice in the last 57 years. They've played brilliantly, and in comparison to England, who have shown up in some of their games but not all of them. I mean, out of the 4 games that they've played so far, they barely showed up against DR Congo, they barely showed up against Panama, they weren't great against Ghana, and they did quite well against Croatia, who have been the strongest opponent they've played so far. But I have gone for an upset. A goal from Raul Jimenez for Mexico, a Harry Kane goal for England, but Mexico to win 5-4 on penalties. It's just I think an upset, and Mexico are a very strong side that are underrated at this tournament, and they would probably go through, in my opinion. England have a chance, and obviously you can't rule them out, but I have got Mexico going through. Moving on to the next mouth-watering clash where we have Portugal versus Spain, with the winner playing USA versus Belgium in the quarters. Very, very interesting match here because Portugal were dismal at times to watch against Croatia because, in my opinion, and this is obviously unpopular, but it is just the truth, Ronaldo's holding them back because you can just see the whole team is trying to pass it to Ronaldo, get him the goals, and it's just not working. And they need to. It's not a team. I understand you can have those superstar players like you've got Messi, Argentina, you've got like Modric at Croatia, obviously, but you can't be like trying to get them the goals and the stats that they need. You need to play as a team. And then you've got Spain, who obviously are filled with superstars, with the likes of Lamine Yamal, Rodri, Pedri, but they're a team and they play fantastic football, and they have played fantastic football. Ronaldo obviously got taken off, and that actually seemed to help because they got the goal that won Portugal the game. For that reason, I have got Portugal scoring a goal courtesy of Rafael Leao, but 2 goals for Spain courtesy of Mikel Oyarzabal and Lamine Yamal, getting Spain the result. And I mean, this was actually my prediction for the final of the World Cup. Back when the draw had happened and it was just the group stages that hadn't started yet. But now that it's obviously happening now, I just see Spain winning, and I did put Spain to win the tournament down against Portugal in my actual predictions. But yeah, I just see Spain, fantastic side. Portugal, obviously incredible midfield, pretty decent defence, but Ronaldo is just holding them back. Next up, we move on to. Oh, I've done it again. Right, okay. I did change it, but we've got Belgium versus United States. As you can see, I have got a goal for Belgium. I'm not going to click just yet. I'll leave it. You can guess and you can wonder if I'm going to say United States win this or not. USA versus Belgium is a very interesting match. You normally, like maybe a couple of years ago, you would have put it down that Belgium would do quite well, but recently they have been pretty shambolic. Against Senegal, they were just really lucky to win. The comeback was pretty good, but they were not great for ages, and it was like that last 5 minutes when they got the 2 goals that they turned up, and then that really controversial penalty. It was a penalty in my opinion. I think it was Habib Diarra tackled Yuri Tielemans, and it was a penalty. But then Senegal just got really grumpy about it, and I mean you can't blame them. I know it was bad behaviour, but you can't blame them if it's like the 120th minute to knock you out the tournament. But United States have played very solid football aside from a loss to Turkey, who were already eliminated. USA has played really well. They beat Paraguay 4-1, and then against Bosnia they did win 2-0, courtesy of goals from Folarin Balogun and Malik Tillman. However, they have a big miss is that Balogun is suspended for this match because he got sent off against Bosnia. It was a nasty tackle. It wasn't intentional. It was a nasty foul. And there's a chance he could even be suspended for the 2 games after this if United States goes through, which I do have them doing. I have gone for goals from Ricardo Pepi, who will probably come in for Balogun, and the LeBron James of soccer. Nope, sorry, the LeBron James of football, Christian Pulisic, going to score. But a goal from Lukaku gives Belgium a chance, but I do have USA going through in this clash to play Spain, in my opinion. Moving on to the next match, which is Argentina versus Cape Verde. This is going to be interesting to predict because Argentina struggled against Cape Verde, and I don't know if that's whether just because they weren't prepared for that style of football or whatever, but it wasn't their day last night, to be honest. Just the performance purely, Cape Verde should be here because Argentina were not at their best, but they got the result, just pure luck. I mean, it was unfortunately a deflected hand from Lopez or something from Cape Verde, but yeah, I think it was Borges from Cape Verde who accidentally deflected it in off his hand past Vizinha for Argentina's winner. But Cape Verde were immaculate last night, and Argentina were not great. But Argentina are somehow here, so we'll predict it from there. And they will play the second African team in this round of 16 at Egypt. They did decently against Australia. Arguably could have been out because Australia were the better side in my opinion, but they held them to penalties. They had a chance late on but didn't score. And then you had the great result for Egypt on penalties. The best player on the pitch, Harry Souttar, obviously missed, and it was just unfortunate. And then I can't remember who it was. Someone else missed at the end. I think it was, I don't know his name, Harrington. He missed as well. I don't really know why Australia had a young centre back taking a penalty, but we move. So for Argentina versus Egypt, I have gone for a 2-0 victory for Argentina. Oh, I've not put. Oh, yeah. Sorry. I'll go back. My bad. I've gone for a 2-0 victory for Argentina, courtesy of brace from the greatest player of all time, Lionel Messi, who extended his record. Egypt, I don't see getting a goal. Salah might, or someone but might. But yeah, I have Egypt too, unfortunately going out, leaving Morocco as the only African side in the quarterfinals. Moving on to the last clash as who will play the winner of Argentina versus Egypt. It is Switzerland versus Colombia, probably the two dark horse clash. This will be an interesting one to watch because Switzerland beat Algeria, Colombia beat Ghana, each being African sides. Colombia have been a very fun side to watch. They were fantastic against Portugal and definitely should have won. And Switzerland have been rugged and dependable. They have been a bit rough at times, but they have been getting the results. As for who I've got going through in this clash, though, I have a goal from Johan Manzambi, the young Swiss striker who's broken out at this tournament. But 2 for Colombia from Luis Diaz and Luis Javier, or however you say it, Suarez. And yeah, I do have Colombia going through. They played some really fun football and really good looking football, and they have been getting the results, and I do see them going through. Which leads to the last part, which is just how the quarterfinal matchups would look if my predictions are correct. So we'd have France versus Morocco, which is an interesting match that happened in the 2022 tournament in the semis with France winning. You have the United States versus Spain, which is also quite an interesting clash, but I would probably see Spain winning that. You have Brazil versus Mexico, and you'd have Argentina versus Colombia. So that would leave us with, is it just two? It's just 2 European teams actually. Yeah, that's interesting. And then 2 North American sides, and 4 South American sides. No, 3 South American sides: Brazil, Argentina, Colombia, and then an African side. So yeah, only two European sides left. But yeah, that is my round of 16 predictions. Let me know what you think of them in the comments. I'll probably get hated on for that England result and probably for my comments about Cristiano Ronaldo, but they are probably the truth. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll definitely see you again soon for the quarterfinal results, matchups rather, and yeah, have a great day and see you soon.